Welcome friends, welcome back to Sunday morning in the old cookbook show. Today we're going to do a recipe out of the Friendship Cookbook. This is a cookbook that my cousin Brett in Arkansas sent up to me, and it is from a church in Santa Monica, California. And the perspective of this time period, it's undated, but based on the recipes, I'm going to say it's somewhere between 1927 and 1935, that kind of time period. So just at the beginning of the Great Depression, or just as the Great Depression is sort of really taking its grip. And the recipes in this book are completely different to the recipes that I am familiar with from my own family tradition here in Canada, and the recipe books that have been passed down to us from the little towns and villages where our families lived during the Depression. So today we're going to do something called a 6-layer dish. And, you know, if this was today, 2020, and you went into a hipster cafe, they would probably call this a deconstructed meatloaf. I think this is going to be pretty interesting. It lacks some spicing, which sort of is part and parcel of this time period. But I think the flavors should be fantastic. It should be very sort of heartwarming. So it starts out with, it says 2 cups of raw sliced potatoes, and you layer them in the bottom of a greased baking dish. So let's get going with these layers. Okay, finishing up with the last of the potatoes. Now it says salt and pepper between each layer, and salt and pepper is the only spicing in this. So use what you want if you decide to make this. And next is a layer of celery. Last of the celery. Now, is this a dish that your family makes? Is it something that they've made in the past? Is it something that you still make? I'm very curious to know, because this is not something that I'm familiar with at all. It says next to put in raw hamburger. So I've got a pound of hamburger, and we're going to crumple this on top. Try to get it in kind of an even layer, I guess. And of course, I'm washing my hands before moving on. Even though you won't see me do it, I will have done it. Okay, salt and pepper again before we move on to the next layer. And the next layer is some sliced onion. So we'll just scatter that on top. Still a couple of pieces of celery that didn't get down into the bottom. So that'll probably end up in here too. I'm not too worried about that. Next in is some sliced green pepper. Scatter those on top. And I'm not salt and peppering between each layer because the layers are pretty open, and I'm kind of fear that we'd end up with too much salt and pepper. So this is where cooking from a recipe still is quite a bit of interpretation. Take your time, look at the recipe, figure out how you would do it, and then sort of make some changes. I usually don't make too many changes on the Sunday morning recipe because I want to do it just like the recipe writer intended. And I try to stick fairly closely to that. And now the last ingredient are some canned tomatoes. And let's see if we can get those on there without clumping them all together. I think I'd be inclined to put some breadcrumbs on top. I think breadcrumbs would be really nice on the top of this. Crouton even. Bake in. Okay. Last little shot of salt and pepper. And then this goes into a preheated 350-degree oven for 2 hours. So stick around and we'll give it a taste test. Okay, so this was sent in by Vi Scott. I imagine she's a member of that church, or was a member of that church.
Yeah, it usually works.
Yep.
I almost feel like a knife would be useful. It might be a little messy. Please excuse my awkward eating. But it looks, it's got all the parts.
It smells like a deconstructed meatloaf. It's got all the meatloaf parts. Except, you know, potato. I guess
Potato's good.
Yeah, I guess people do eat mashed potato with warm, comforting, easy. I mean, it's got all of the things that my grandfather would want in a dinner. Right? Meat.
With a slice of bread on the side.
Yeah, meat, potatoes, tomatoes, slice of bread, probably some molasses or corn syrup.
You can throw in some more tomato if you wanted to. I mean, again, like everything, right? You make it your own. What do you like? I like tomatoes. Throw in more tomatoes. You could throw in some carrots because I like lots of vegetables.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Maybe shred the carrots so they would cook quicker?
You could probably even put in cabbage.
Yes.
Like,
Well, and also you could
now it's 10 layers. Ooh.
you could switch up and add a little bit of different spicing too.
Yeah. Again, as what makes you happy. You could add a hot sauce if you want.
But the thing is, as much as it's just salt and pepper, might be the rural Canadian, background. I think it tastes great because it's comforting.
I think it tastes great, and I would say that I know that my family, the older generation of my family, salt and pepper was all they ever did anyway. So this would be their norm, and so this is what they're comfortable with.
Yeah.
I think this works for supper.
Yep.
So there you go.
There's always a drive to make things too complicated, and sometimes
You gotta take it down.
you just take it down, make it simple. So this is fantastic. This worked out. I'm really happy with this. I would make this again. I would eat this again. Over there,
Yeah, don't do that.
kind of sitting forlorn.
Not that version anyway. Version 1.
Version 1 didn't work out, and this is the thing. That is a recipe from a commercial cookbook, and it didn't work. So I could have completely screwed it up. So keep your eye out for magic brownies.
They may or may not work.
Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.